Hello, Cougar Nation, and welcome to Geisman Gymnasium. This is Wednesday, March 19th, for another men's volleyball matchup in the NAC. Concordia Chicago hosting Wisconsin Lutheran College as we head into the back half of the men's volleyball season. The Cougars come into this game sitting at 2-5 in conference. They're 10-17 overall. Wisconsin Lutheran, strong season so far, 4-2 in conference, 13-10 overall. But this is a Wisconsin Lutheran team that had a very different kind of schedule than the Cougars have had so far this season. Wisconsin Lutheran, they've played through most of the soft part of the schedule. The Cougars, they've played through a tough part of their schedule. And both of these teams that by the end of the season will probably be fighting for those last playoff spots. Wisconsin Lutheran currently tied for that 5th seed, but this is a very top-heavy NAC. Wisconsin Lutheran with 4 wins at that 5 seed. You go all the way down to St. Norbert sitting at 11. They have 2 wins. They're only 2 games behind. This is a very close, very tight bottom 4 seeds in the NAC. The Cougars right on the verge of cracking in to that top 8. Wisconsin Lutheran currently holding strongly a spot in that top 8, but they would love to pick up a win in what could very well be their easiest remaining matchup this season on the road. The Cougars, a very winnable game at home, a game they're looking to win. This is a game that is winnable for both teams and is important for both teams to pick up a win against one of the teams you can beat, because, like I mentioned, this is a very top-heavy NAC. Aurora, Benedictine, Dominican, MSOE, all those teams very, very tough to beat. It'll be Wisconsin Lutheran who will serve it off first to start today's game. James Biedenbender, the starting setter for this squad, is going to send it across. Hoffman receives. Mosher sets up for Stella, and J.R. Stella picks up the kill, coast to coast to the far corner, and the Cougars strike first, up 1-0. Stella will now have the chance to serve for Concordia Chicago. J.R. Stella has the most service aces on this roster. Biedenbender sets up for Josh Ward, and the Warriors pick up their first point of the night. Stella can't receive cleanly as Greg Manos cracks a joke at Stella as he comes off the court. Now serving for Wisconsin Lutheran is Noah Kern, the freshman out of Brookfield. Hoffman receives. Mosher sets up for Hoffman, and just down on the far line, Marcin Hoffman picks up a kill, and the Cougars, their 2 freshman stars from last season, both in the starting lineup tonight, both of them picking up the first 2 kills for the Concordia Chicago. Gudzowski serves it across. Biedenbender sets up for Ward, and again, Gudzowski can't receive cleanly. That's deep into the bleachers, and the Warriors pick up the point again. We're tied back up at 2-2 as Samuel Duder drops back to serve. Dudor sends that just over the net. Mosher sets for Ford. Now Mosher setting up for Hollebeck. Hollebeck, a little floater, saved by the Warriors. Biedenbender setting over to Heiser. Mosher just has to push it across. Biedenbender sets up. That's blocked at the line. That's just pushed across. Now Mosher to Ford. Tipped and out of bounds. Long back and forth between these 2 squads, and it ends up with the Cougars taking the point. Alexander Ford gets it across. It was tipped by Drew Wempner. And the Cougars back up 3-2. Tyler Hollebeck serving. Biedenbender sets up for Dudor. There's Pickler, blocked and down, and you don't see that often with Brady Pickler. Concordia Chicago building a wall on the front line tonight, and they lead by 2. Brady Pickler tied for first in the conference in kills per set. He's having an electric season, and the Cougars shutting him down so far tonight. That's off a cross off of Van Gato's face. Now Wempner can't drop that down on the court. Tried to float it in, and it drops down out of bounds. The Cougars bench having the time of their lives right now and driving up the atmosphere as Tyler Hollebeck will serve that across once more. Biedenbender just has to pass that across over to Heusser. Ford! Oh, you're not going to stop that one easily. Alexander Ford with a running spike and a nutmeg of Connor Heusser on the back line. Hollebeck gets that across again. Biedenbender setting over to Wempner. Point Cougars! Almost deflected. The Warriors bench wants that call. Officials won't give it to him. Concordia Chicago stays on a 5-0 run. Hollebeck serves it across once again. Biedenbender over to Heusser. Cougars keep it up. Van Gato over to Hoffman. Blocked, but out of bounds. And Concordia Chicago stays on the run. And what's tough for Wisconsin Lutheran, there's a forced timeout. Mike Ensley has to call an early timeout for his squad. Concordia Chicago driving the pace here early, but what's tough for Wisconsin Lutheran is they're just making mistakes. They have close shots that aren't landing down, deflections out of bounds, balls landing between their legs. I mean, that was a very, very good block on Marston Hoffman right at the end. You give nothing away with that, but you're right on the edge and you just miss that angle slightly and it drops down out of bounds. I mean, it all adds up to what's now a 6-0 run in favor of the Cougars, and that's something the Cougars have struggled on this season is long runs, building those long runs to build substantial leads or get back into the games. They've done that early. They've driven the pace early, and that's good to see because this is a team that in a lot of their games they've had to play from behind, but striking early, getting out to a 6-point lead. This is exactly how Concordia Chicago wanted to start this game, and the atmosphere in Geisman Gymnasium is incredible right now. The bleachers filled as much as they usually get for a men's volleyball game, but that Cougars bench getting raucous. This team feeling it with a 6-point lead as Tyler Hollebeck heads out to serve out of the timeout. Serves across. Biedenbender setting and blocked, and that's going to drop down. Brady Pickler is struggling to get past the net tonight. Another shot from Pickler blocked. This Cougars front line is putting on a show in River Forest, and Hollebeck loses his run with a serve straight into net. So that'll end on a service error, but Concordia Chicago, a 6-0 run before that service error. They lead by 6. It's 9-3 as Brady Pickler drops back to serve. Pickler into the net. And these two squads trade service errors. That was an awkward serve from Pickler. It just almost looked like he swung at it late. He had that style of high toss, going for the jump serve, and then just got on top of it, swung a bit late, and it never really made its way over the net. There's a dump off. The Cougars save it, and they're just unable to bail out of that one. Wisconsin Lutheran able to block Mosher at the line and drop it down on the line, but Concordia Chicago almost able to play defense against that dump off. 6-point lead now for the Concordia Chicago Cougars. Heusser gets it across. Mosher sets up for Stella on the near side. Now Heusser will set that up for Kern. And that's going to drop to the feet of a Cougar. Hollebeck can't cover it. That's the first consecutive run of points with 2 that we've seen all night for Wisconsin Lutheran. Heusser back to serve once again. He'll get that across. Hoffman blocks it. Concordia Chicago forced into a tough spot. Gato just has to slap it across. Now Wempner blocked at the line again. Another one for Concordia Chicago. It almost looks like Wempner wasn't even looking across the net. J.R. Stella and Alexander Ford already up before he even hit that shot. And a hard serve from Ford straight back across. Mosher just slams that down. And they're going to send the point to the Cougars. They're going to say that Mosher went over the line. Greg Manos is going over to the near side official to try and talk about the call. And that is a very, very close call, a very tough call for the Cougars to swallow. They still lead by 5. Mosher setting up for Stella. Stella gets that over the block. That's going to be passed up. Biedenbender just has to slap it across. Mosher sets over to Hollaback. There's one! Tyler Hollaback, his first kill of the night. The Cougars passing, firing on all cylinders so far tonight. They're forcing Wisconsin Lutheran into tough spots, and it's paying off. They still lead by 6, 12-6. As Mosher serves that across, Biedenbender sets that up for Ward. And Hoffman, covering on the back line, jumps up, isn't able to move sideways. And that's Ward's 3rd kill of the night. Josh Ward doing the heavy lifting for this WLC offense. And now it'll be Biedenbender to serve for the 2nd time tonight. Mosher sets up Gudzowski. And Leon Gudzowski just put the hammer down. Went through 2 points of contact with Wisconsin Lutheran, unable to get a clean hit up. And the Cougars take possession back with a 6-point lead. Stella gets that across. That's going to be set up for Pickler, who just has to push it over. Now Hollaback tries to go with the left hand and can't get it cleanly, and that is a tough play to swallow for Concordia Chicago. They were in the driver's seat, and it just seemed like they couldn't figure out what they wanted to do with that on offense. So a missed opportunity for CUC. They still lead by 5. Gato receives. Mosher sets for Gudzowski. Blocked the line, keeps it up. Mosher sets over to Hollaback. Gets that one across. Now long set for Wempner. Blocked at the line again. That's set for Ward. Mosher keeps it up. Gato, long set to Hollaback, floats it over. Biedenbender setting back for Kern. Now Gato setting over to Hoffman. Backline and down! Back and forth, and it goes the way of the Cougs. Both teams showing off their defensive prowess in that rally, but Concordia Chicago still undaunted. And Van Cato showing off his assets as a backup setter in that rally. Gudzowski gets that just off the net. Now Pickler, that's out of bounds. That's an error. Brady Pickler having a rough night in River Forest. His 3rd error of the evening, hitting well in the negatives. Gudzowski gets it across. Biedenbender sets for Ward, and there's another one for Josh Ward. His 4th of the night. Josh Ward, I mean, I said it already, doing the heavy lifting on this Warriors offense, but he's the only attacker who is able to reliably get a ball down against this Concordia defense so far. Dudor straight into the net, and that is a rough night so far for Samuel Dudor as well. 2 opportunities at the service line, both of them ending in the net. 7-point lead for Concordia Chicago. Hollaback back to serve once again. He'll get that across. Biedenbender sets up Wempner. That's a cross, and Wempner jumps on it. Another one for Wisconsin Lutheran. They respond to the Cougars. They've done a good job of it. Since that early run by Concordia Chicago, this lead stayed around that 6-7 gap. Wisconsin Lutheran hasn't let Concordia Chicago pull away anymore. They haven't been able to climb back into it either. Mosher sets for Hoffman. No one there on the back line. Hoffman just splitting the block, and that's Hoffman's 4th of the night. Marcin Hoffman hitting on another level in this match so far. 4 kills on 4 attempts for the sophomore. Serving with a 7-point lead, it's Hoffman who gets it across. Biedenbender setting for Wempner. And Wisconsin Lutheran, just another mistake on offense. Biedenbender's set goes high. Wempner chooses not to go for it. And Heuser wasn't expecting to have to go for it, and that just drops down to the bottom of the net. Hoffman with another chance to serve, gets it across, and it's going to be an awkward play. This is going to be a very awkward play. Pickler able to get it over the net. Mosher sets for Stella. There's the hammer. Biedenbender headed over to Heuser. Gato keeps it up. Now Mosher setting for Ford! And Alexander Ford slams that down. And Wisconsin Lutheran forced to take their second timeout of the set. And Concordia Chicago remains in the driver's seat. This is another level of a Concordia Chicago offense that we haven't really seen consistently this season. They're playing cleanly. They're not committing many errors. This team only has 2 errors so far, both of them from Eli and Mosher, and both of them on tough plays to make. This is a team, they're playing cleanly, they're hitting well, they're hitting at a hitting percentage of .381, and the only player hitting under negative, it's a negative 1,000 from Eli Mosher on his 2 attempts. Both of those, again, awkward attempts that are kind of forced. This is a Cougars offense that is playing at another level, a Cougars defense that is playing at another level. They're able to see the court, they're able to see where the balls are going. This Concordia Chicago team very much in the driver's seat. Wisconsin Lutheran, on the other hand, I mean, they're fighting, and they've had good rallies, but they are, in effect, just being outplayed so far in this game. I mean, you've seen those long rallies between these 2 teams. We've had a couple of them, but pretty much every single time it's been Wisconsin Lutheran who breaks, Concordia Chicago who picks up the point. I mean, that's tough to swallow. Losing those long rallies, it's a bit demoralizing. It is hopeful for Wisconsin Lutheran. They've shown that they can stay with Concordia in these points. They need to find a way to go on a run themselves, so they haven't been able to claw back any of this deficit so far in set number 1. But there's a start. Drew Wempner gets that deflection off of Ford. And Wisconsin Lutheran brings it back to an 8-point gap, and back to serve, trailing by 8, is Connor Heuser, the junior out of West Bend, Wisconsin. Gets that over the net. Hoffman receives off the ceiling. Ford passing over to Stella. Blocked at the line. Gato's there. Now Mosher setting for Stella. There's a hammer. Almost off the ceiling, but not. Now Stella, another opportunity, floats it. And Wisconsin Lutheran to respond. Heuser from the back line. Now Mosher setting for Ford. And how about that from Alexander Ford, the double clutch, as he just seems to hang up in the air forever. And Concordia Chicago again, strong defense, converting into a point. They lead by 9 as Ford power shot straight into the net, and that's what you usually see, especially at this level of volleyball at D3. Your servers who can power it that hard, sometimes that comes at the cost of accuracy. Great save from Marcin Hoffman to keep it alive. Now Sella just has to slap that across from the near sideline. Biedenbender setting for Wempner. And Drew Wempner shaking his head at that one. An awkward hit that the Cougars weren't expecting. And just drops down in no man's land. First consecutive pair of points Wisconsin Lutheran has had in a hot minute. And it'll end. Drew Wempner, his opportunity at the service line goes straight out of bounds. And the Cougars will take possession back, leading by 8. Eli Mosher back with his chance to serve. He'll send that just over, but just out of bounds. Couldn't drop it in. I mean, that is an awkward serve. Usually you'll see if a player serves with a light serve, they're not going to hit it out, but Mosher tried to finesse that right on the line and was unable to do so. Hoffman receives. Mosher setting for Stella. Knocks Biedenbender on his behind. Heuser just has to slap it across from the back line. Stella, again, a floater. Saved by Salutrik. Mosher keeps it up. Gato passes to Stella. Stella gets the deflection. Now Biedenbender setting over to Kern. Out of bounds! That Cougars defense again outlasting Wisconsin Lutheran. And again, to WLC's credit, they hung with the Cougars in that rally, but the CUC just outlasting them as J.R. Stella drops back to serve. And J.R. Stella heads it straight into the net. And this is exactly where Wisconsin Lutheran needs to capitalize. Back-to-back service errors for CUC. And you have to go on a run. You only have 3 points left in this set for Concordia. Kern gets it across. Hoffman receives. Mosher setting for Hollaback! Hollaback brings it to Basco. And that one untouched to the ground on the near sideline. Concordia Chicago takes possession back. Leon Gudzowski back to serve, only 2 points away from taking set number 1. Gudzowski sends it across. Biedenbender sets for Pickler. That's kept up by Cardenas. Hollaback just has to push it across. Biedenbender setting for Ward. Pancaked by Mosher. Hollaback blocked at the line. Hoffman keeps it up, set for Ford. So Lutrick hit it all the way over to Pickler, blocked at the line, kept up. Hoffman slaps it across. Now Pickler gets it across. Mosher sets for Hollaback, tapped down. Point Cougars. Concordia Chicago is incredible stamina. In set number 1, another long back and forth that goes the Cougars' way. Leon Gudzowski sends that across. So Lutrick's poor reception. And Alexander Ford decides to head to that 3-minute break right now. Concordia Chicago dominates in set number 1, 10-point victory, 25-15. As they head to the other side of the court, the defense is rock solid, the offense firing on all cylinders. As these teams take a break down on the court, we'll take a break here at the Cougar Sports Network. We'll be back in just a minute for more Cougar Volleyball. Hello, Cougar Nation. Welcome back to Geisman Gymnasium here on Wednesday night, March 19th. As Concordia Chicago headed into set number 2 with the 1-set lead over Wisconsin Lutheran in a dominant set number 1. Alexander Ford having himself a night so far. 5 kills. Marcin Hoffman, a perfect night. 4 kills on 4 attempts. Tyler Hollebeck, 3 to his name. And some great defense from this Concordia Chicago squad. 3 blocks so far on the night as a team. We go over to Wisconsin Lutheran, and there is a stat on that sheet that sticks out like a sore thumb. Brady Pickler, this team's offensive force. He leads this offense. He leads offense in the NAC. Tied at the top of the conference with 3.97 kills per set. He's tied with Josh McClellan, who McClellan's the offensive leader of nationally ranked Aurora. Pickler has had a great season so far, but tonight against Concordia Chicago, nothing going for him. 8 attempts, no kills, 3 errors, hitting at a negative 375 percentage. He is struggling, and he is exactly who the Warriors are going to look to get going, to get back into this match. Mosher serves for the Cougars to start things off. Biedenbender sets for Pickler, and there it is. You got to get him going. How about doing it on the very first point of the set? Brady Pickler, a very needed first point of the night. And Wisconsin Lutheran strikes first in set number 2. Pickler sends that across. Hollebeck receives. Mosher sets for Hollebeck. Taps that over the block and drops down. Miscommunication on the middle of the court between Trevor Salutrik and Brady Pickler. And Hollebeck able to pick up a kill and a point for the Cougs. They'll take possession back, tied 1-1. Michael Cardenas came into the game for the first time at the end of set number 1. He'll serve it off for the first time tonight. Able to get it over. Biedenbender sets for Wempner. And that's another one for Drew Wempner, his 4th kill of the night. And here we go again. These two teams spent a lot of set number 1 trading points back and forth. They do it on the first 3 points of set number 2 as well. Poiser serve off the net. Mosher sets for Hoffman. Pickler keeps it alive. Biedenbender sends over to Kern. Gato to Hoffman, just slaps it across. And Wempner, another one. And Wempner, unfazed. His 5th kill of the night. And a 2-point lead is the largest lead of the night for Wisconsin Lutheran. They lead 3-1 as Poiser drops back to serve again. Cardenas receives. Mosher sets for Hollebeck. And Hollebeck just fires that through the gap to the far side. That'll bring possession back over to the Cougars. Tyler Hollebeck already 2 kills in set number 2 as Leon Gudzowski drops back to serve. Gudzowski gets that across. Salutrik receives. Biedenbender, dump off. Saved by Mosher. Hoffman passes over to Mosher, who just sends it across. Now Biedenbender, he'll set up for Kern, and that's going to drop down. Wisconsin Lutheran having a great set number 2 so far. They lead 4-2. You want to notice how much better this set is already. Their hitting percentage has already improved drastically from set number 1. They're hitting as a team at an 0-8 percentage. Already have that up over 100 in set number 2. Those offensive gremlins getting figured out on the Warriors side, and they have a 3-point lead to show with it. Wempner gets it over the net. Mosher sets for Ford, blocked the line. Mosher now sets for Hollebeck, and that's deflected out of bounds. Point Cougars. Tyler Hollebeck coming up big for the Cougars in set number 2. Keeping him in it so far, and he'll drop back to serve himself. Just gets it over the net. Biedenbender, he'll set that up for Pickler. And a running kill for Brady Pickler. His 2nd of the set. And that's going to bring possession back over to WLC. They still lead by 3. Biedenbender gets that across. Mosher sets for Hoffman. Pickler just has to pass it to Kern. Now Mosher sets for Ford, slaps that across. Biedenbender sets over to Kern, deflected out of bounds. And that's another difference, it looks like, with this Warriors offense. They're playing in to the Cougars' blocks now more so than they did in that first set. First set, they're trying to power through, trying to get it down to the court. Now they're playing those angles more. They're trying to get those deflections out of bounds, and it's working. Mosher sets for Ford. Mosher sets that up again. Hoffman able to get it across and down. That point's going to go over to the Cougars. The Warriors bench and the Warriors fans on the far side wanted a carry against the Cougars. They're not going to get it. Now Hoffman serves, trailing by 3. Pickler, awkward pass. Back and forth at the line. Kern just has to push it across. Mosher sets up for Hollaback. And that's some Chipotle Tabasco. Tyler Hollaback, a laser to the back line, ricocheting off of Trevor Salutrik into the bleachers. And the Cougars, their first consecutive points of set number 2. Hoffman gets it across. Biedenbender sets for Ward. Hoffman receives. Now Hollaback floats it off the net and down. Tyler Hollaback, 4th kill of the set, 8th on the night, and the Cougars are back within 1. Hoffman gets it across. Biedenbender sets for Pickler. Miscommunication on the back line. Hollaback just tries to slap at it, and it sends it off course from where Hoffman's looking to defend. That sends it back over to the Warriors. They lead by 2 as Kern sends that out of bounds. Kern laughs it off as he heads into the circle. Concordia Chicago takes possession back off that service error, and Alexander Ford will drop back to serve. Ford's last serve went straight into the net. That one just over the net. Good save from James Biedenbender. Now Pickler blocked the line. Mosher sets for Hollaback, and Hollaback too much on that one. The Cougars calling for the tip, and they're not going to get it either. Two-point lead for the Warriors. Samuel Dudor back to serve. That's needed for Dudor, his first successful serve of the night. Now Stella. That's a hammer that's not getting soft. J.R. Stella, his 2nd kill of the night. Power shot from the far side. And again, these two teams trading points back and forth. As Eli Mosher drops back to serve for the 2nd time this set, trailing by 1. Mosher gets that across. Awkward reception. Biedenbender saves it. Stella just tries to press the advantage. Now Pickler knocks that down, and J.R. Stella taking responsibility with that mistake. I mean, he saw green. He saw the Warriors pushing up off the poor pass, but then didn't put any heat on it, didn't press, and that's the kind of a play where you would rather see the Cougars keep that possession and set up an attacking play of their own. As Pickler rockets that, almost saved by the banner. As there's Brady Pickler with this, and now the Rockford University banner hanging on by a thread up on the ceiling, one of the hooks getting knocked off. As Brady Pickler drops back to serve again. Sends it across, miscommunication again. Four-point lead for the Warriors, and that's going to prompt the first timeout of the night from Greg Manos. Concordia Chicago heads off to the sideline, try and figure things out. You go over to Wisconsin Lutheran. they figured out their offensive struggles this set, going from a 0-2-6 hitting percentage in set number 1, hitting .529 in set number 2. They've already moved that whole match hitting percentage up to 189. Drastic improvement on the side of WLC. The Cougars not really struggling that much more in terms of performance. They're staying within 4. Only 1 error in this set so far. They're hitting higher than they did in the first set. 429 hit percentage in this set. The difference, though, is that Wisconsin Lutheran, I mean, the Cougars simply outplaying WLC in set number 1. Now it's the opposite story. The Cougars still playing well. The Warriors just playing better in set number 2. And they'll head out of this timeout with a 4-point lead. Cougars looking to have a strong performance out of the timeout. Pickler back to serve once again. He'll toss that up and send it into the net. So that's going to end the run. Brady Pickler, service error to end that scoring run. 3 points. Another 3-point run for WLC. And now Michael Cardenas back to serve for Concordia Chicago. Cardenas gets it across. Biedenbender sets for Wempner. Wempner splits the block. Weiser drops back to serve for the second time tonight with a second time this set. 4-point lead behind him this time. Weiser going to toss that up, get it across. Gato receives. Mosher sets up for Hoffman. Hoffman tries to get it to the back line. Can't. Pickler from mid-range. Mosher to Gato. Hollebeck coming onto it. That's getting tapped all the way to the far side. And the Warriors almost able to save it. Diving efforts from Weiser and Pickler. Just can't get there. And Concordia Chicago will take possession back, and Leon Guzovsky will drop back to serve. Guzovsky gets that across. Biedenbender sets over to Pickler, who just floats it over. Slammed down at the line and knocked out of bounds by Brady Pickler with a panic hit. And Concordia Chicago, consecutive points needed. Consecutive points for the Cougars. Gap down to 2 as Guzovsky drops back to serve again. And that's received by Weiser. Biedenbender setting over to Kern. Blocked at the line! Hollebeck gets up there. Ford slumps the foot down. And Concordia Chicago back within 1. Guzovsky serving from a 1-point deficit. Biedenbender out of bounds. And they're going to give the point to the Cougars. Wisconsin Lutheran now very heavily arguing that that ball was tipped last by Concordia. They're not going to get the call to go their way. Guzovsky across Biedenbender and Wempner. He's going to end that 4-point run. Wempner's 7th kill of the night, and he'll drop back to serve himself now. And awkward reception from Cardenas. That's an ace for Drew Wempner. Back up to a 2-point lead for the Warriors. And another one for Drew Wempner. Gato can't get there. That's a perfect response from Wisconsin Lutheran. Take that 4-0 run, respond with a 3-0 run of your own. Wempner loses the run with a shot well out of bounds, but Wisconsin Lutheran just what they needed. They get that lead back. And now the Cougars serving from a deficit again. Hollebeck back to the line to serve. He'll float that over. Biedenbender sets it up for Kern. Gato's there, but it's straight into the net. And the Warriors will take possession right back. Biedenbender dropping back to serve. Biedenbender gets it over. Mosher sets for Ford on the running shot! And Alexander Ford with a quick draw. Straight down, no drop on that one. And the Cougars take possession back. Another 2-point deficit for them to serve, but Marcin Hoffman back to the line. Hoffman won on a 4-0 service run himself his last time there. He'll get this one across. Biedenbender sets over to Pickler. Mosher sets for Ford. That's deflected out of bounds. There it is. The far sideline official initially called Wisconsin Lutheran, and the near sideline official very adamant that it was tipped, which is the correct call. That was very much tipped by Wisconsin Lutheran. So the Cougars back within one. And great communication of Trevor Salutric to tell him to get out of the way of that one just over the back line from Hoffman. Back to a 2-point lead for WLC. Kern back to serve. He'll get that over. Hollebeck receives. Mosher sets over to Stella. And how about that? Brady Pickler gets up for a block of his own. And the Warriors back up with a 3-point lead, 19-16. Kern back to serve once again. Kern gets it across. Gato sends it right back over the net. Warriors set up a play. That's over to Pickler, blocked at the line. Salutric to Biedenbender to Heuser. Stella receives. Mosher sets for Hollebeck. Mid-range! Salutric can't reel that in! That's all the way to the back wall, and it is now a boom battle going on. The Warriors brought the boom celebration in for blocks and kills of their own. Now the Cougars bench and the Cougars student section breaking it out themselves. And they're going to call an over penalty on Eli Mosher. Again, Mosher is upset, and Mosher is going to get a yellow card for that one. And the Warriors route up Mosher. Mosher having a rough night with those calls. Every single call that has called a player for going over the net has been against Eli Mosher. And I mean, you could argue that there's some that should have been against the Warriors tonight too, but Eli Mosher having a rough night in that regard. I mean, that was a very quick draw on the yellow card from the official, but now 3-point lead for the Warriors. Hoffman receives. Stella passes over to Mosher, just dumps that across. Set for Pickler. That's going to be another one for Wisconsin Lutheran. Hollebeck can't reel it in, and WLC 4-point lead, 4 points away from taking set number 2. Dudor gets it across. Mosher sets for Hoffman. Off the net. Point over to WLC. And Greg Manos is going to call a timeout. The Cougars, a rough run of luck. Now trailing by 5. Wisconsin Lutheran only 3 points away from winning this set. They'll take a break down on the court. We'll take a break here up here at the Cougar Sports Network. We'll be back in just a moment for the end of set number 2. And we're back. 3 points to go for Wisconsin Lutheran in set number 2. Cougars trailing by 5. Need a stop and need a run to get back into this set. Rough run of luck in terms of penalties and calls for CUC as Dudor sends that out of bounds, and that's the luck they need. Out of the timeout, another service error for Wisconsin Lutheran, their 7th of the night. And Concordia Chicago will take possession back, trailing by 4. Eli Mosher back to serve for the Cougs. Mosher sends that across. Beaten Bender sets over to Pickler. And Brady Pickler continues what has been a hot set for him, his 5th kill of the set. And Wisconsin Lutheran 2 points away now from taking set number 2. Pickler back to serve. Gets it across. Hoffman receives. Mosher sets for Gudzovsky and blocked by Lempner. 1 point now to go for Wisconsin Lutheran. Wisconsin Lutheran looking to finish off a big set number 2 victory. Pickler sends it out of bounds. So the Cougars get a gift. They get a service error. And now they need to be perfect. Concordia Chicago going to need 5 straight points to even this set up and send it to extra volleyball. Cardenas gets it across. Biedenbender passes that up to Heuser, who gets it over. Now Gato sets up for Hoffman. A floater saved by the Warriors. Hoffman passes to Mosher. Passes to Gudzovsky, blocked. Kept up by Mosher. Cardenas to Hollabeck. Tipped. And they're going to say that that tipped the pin. And another break for Wisconsin Lutheran. WLC takes set number 2, 25-19 over the Cougars. These teams switch sides. They'll take a 3-minute break on the court. We'll take a 3-minute break up here at the Cougar Sports Network. We'll be back after that for set number 3 here in River Forest. Welcome back to River Forest, where we are tied up 1-1 headed into set number 3. Wisconsin Lutheran, the response they need. Coming off of a rough first set, the offense gets going, and that can be attributed to Brady Pickler. Pickler silent in set number 1, playing poorly in set number 1. He turns it on in set number 2, 6 kills. Gets his hitting percentage back up in the positives. Team as a whole hitting .327. .344 actually in set number 2 after hitting just .027 in set number 1. The Cougars not hitting poorly in that last set, but not hitting well enough to keep pace with Wisconsin Lutheran. Both teams looking to take set number 3 and get advantage headed into what could be a final set number 4. Samuel Dudor back to serve to start the set. Dudor gets it across. Hollebeck receives. Mosher sets for Stella. Stella floats it across. That's set up for Pickler. Tips it over. Hollebeck to Mosher. Set up for Hollebeck. Floats that over. And that's hit across out of bounds. Point's going to go over to the Cougars. Wisconsin Lutheran crying for a call. Not going to get it. So Concordia Chicago draws first blood here in set number 3. Michael Cardenas back to serve. He'll push that across. Set up by Biedenbender for Wempner. Blocked at the line. Biedenbender sets up for Pickler now. Kept up by Mosher. Hollebeck just has to pass that across. Now Biedenbender setting back for Kern. Blocked at the line. Biedenbender has to pass to Pickler. Blocked at the line again. This one just pushed across by Biedenbender. Biedenbender going to set again. Wempner tips it. Hollebeck keeps it up. Mosher to Hollebeck. Blocked at the line. Wempner hits it across. Gudzowski to Mosher. Over to Hoffman. Bassett to the far line. Kern to Salutric. This is going to Heuser. And Heuser hits it out! The Cougars outlast the Warriors. Both of these teams refusing to go down on point number 2. And Concordia Chicago comes out on top, picking up an early 2-0 lead. I mean, you are not going to see much better defensive volleyball than what you see in on that play. Biedenbender to Pickler, blocked at the line and down! This is what the Cougars had in set number 1. They were able to block the Warriors' front line, able to find it on that play and on the play before it. And the Cougars with an early 3-0 lead. Cardenas back to serve again. Cardenas over the line. Biedenbender going to set over to Heuser. Mosher gets it. Gato going to send a long set to Hollebeck. Point Cougars! Tipped at the line. Looked like it was Drew Wempner. And Concordia Chicago up to a 4-point lead. The student section still driving that heckling at the Warriors. As Cardenas sends that one long. That'll end a 4-0 run to start the set. Wisconsin Lutheran gets their first point, and Brady Pickler will drop back to serve. 3-point deficit for Pickler. Pickler went on one good service run his first time at the line, and this time it's received by Gato. Mosher to Hollebeck, floats it, kept up by Biedenbender, but it's kept up into the bleachers. Sent it over to the Wisconsin Lutheran parents, and that's the wrong guys in green you want to send that to. Back to a 4-point lead for the Cougs as Gudzowski drops back to serve. Gudzowski sends that across. Biedenbender going to set to Wempner, and Cardenas can't receive it cleanly. That point's going to go to WLC. Dropping back to serve with a 3-point lead is Connor Heuser. Poiser gets that across. Gato receives. Mosher sets up for Hoffman. Hoffman goes to the back line. Biedenbender able to get there for the set. Kern to Gato. Mosher has to run out of bounds for it. Holopek finds the far corner! And the Cougars catch the Warriors napping. No one able to react to that shot from Holopek. And Tyler Holopek now 13 kills on the night, having himself an outstanding match. Holopek into the net. And WLC catches a much-needed break. They'll take possession back with a 3-point lead. Drew Wempner dropping back to serve. Wempner tosses it up, gets it across. Gato receives. Mosher sets for Hoffman. That's going to go straight back across. That's floated down. And the point's going to go to the Cougars. The corner judge, he hasn't even called that in. The Warriors players did not like that call. And the point goes to Cougars. 4-point lead now for Marcin Hoffman at the line. Biedenbender, long set for Ward! And Josh Ward goes into the net, wasn't going to be able to get there anyways. It was a poor set from the back line. And the Cougars, their largest lead of the set, they lead 8-3. And that's going to prompt the first time out of the set by head coach Mike Ensley. And again, you look at the difference when these two teams are playing well versus when they're not. Wisconsin Lutheran, they played well in set number 1. They controlled the Cougars, and they played well in set 2, controlled the Cougars in set 2. They had a good hitting percentage in set 2. You come here to set number 3, they're struggling on offense again, hitting at a flat 0%. In set number 2, the Cougars, on the other hand, hitting at a .545 hitting percentage. And I mean, the biggest part of that, two players who have been outstanding on the night for the Cougars on offense, Tyler Holopek, Alexander Ford. Holopek's hitting at a .524 percentage, which is much higher than what he usually hits at. Holopek on the season has at a .165 percentage. Alexander Ford, he does have the best hitting percentage out of the Cougars hitters on the season at .235, but it's nothing compared to his .615 hitting percentage he has so far on the night. Both of those players driving a strong offensive night so far for Concordia Chicago. And Wisconsin Lutheran, coming out of the timeout, they were able to turn the offense back on between sets 1 and 2. They're going to have to look to do that in the middle of a set here in set number 3. Marcin Hoffman back to serve for Concordia Chicago, and he can't get it over the line. That's exactly what you want coming out of a timeout. You take possession back, you take the point back, and you don't even have to do anything. Wisconsin Lutheran and James Biedenbender dropping back to serve. Biedenbender just gets it over. Hoffman's reception is poor, and a good block from Mosher. And that just drops down on the Cougars' sideline. So that point heads over to Wisconsin Lutheran. Biedenbender back to serve once again. Biedenbender gets it across. Hoffman receives. Mosher sets for Stella. Blocked out of bounds. Point Cougars. And this is something to note that I've been meaning to mention tonight. Marcin Hoffman, he's been playing most of his time out on that back line. He's been doing a lot of receiving tonight for Concordia Chicago. And the biggest gift, the most notable thing about that is how he's progressed this season, because he's become good at that. He is one of the Cougars' most reliable backline defenders this season. And you go back to his freshman season, he was a remarkable hitter. He was great pushing the advantage on offense. He was good at the service line, but he struggled a lot when he had to go to the back line. He struggled a lot at that defensive aspect of the game, and you can tell that is what he's worked on. It has improved a lot through this second season with the Cougars. as it looks like we're down at the scorer's table figuring out some rotational confusion. Both of these teams getting a chance to catch a breather out on the court. Alexander Ford back to serve for the Cougars. 4-point lead for the freshman. And he'll send that out the back line. Another service error for the Cougars. They've struggled with that in set number 3. And possession heads over to the Warriors and Noah Kern. Kern tosses it up, sends that across. Gato receives. Mosher gonna dump it off! And Eli Mosher finally gets the kill he's been looking for. Catches the Warriors napping. And they crack into double digits, 10-6 lead for Concordia Chicago. Mosher back to serve now. So Lutrick receives, Biedenbender sets up for Pickler. That's tipped at the line. Mosher passes to Gato, sets up Hollaback. Hollaback tips it. Biedenbender keeps it up. Pickler has to pass it across. Gato has to dive for it. Mosher to Godzowski, and the block is waiting. Josh Ward is right there. Back to serve is Samuel Dudor. He had a great run at the end of set number 2. Gets that one across. Poor reception from Hollaback. And Mosher tagged for trying to just save that one going over the net. Now it's down to a 2-point deficit. Warriors able to claw back to touching distance. Dudor sends it across. Mosher sets up Hollaback. That's saved by Biedenbender. Long send to Pickler. Now Mosher sets up Hollaback again. This one's going to get down. Another one for Tyler Hollaback, the grad student with 14-point kills. Michael Cardenas back into the game to serve. Cougars back to a 3-point lead. 11-8 is the score. Cardenas tosses it up, sends that across. Biedenbender sets for Wempner. That's off of Gato's face, back across the net. Pickler tagged for going into the net. Wags his finger at the official as he heads to the circle. Cougars back to a 4-point lead. Cardenas back to serve again. He sends that across. Biedenbender going to set up Pickler. And Gato can't receive it cleanly. That's tipped, just tipped before it goes down to the ground by Gato. Got it, stood too far back for it. So Brian Pickler heads back to serve with a 3-point deficit. Going from the far side of the court this time. He'll toss it up and send it across. Hoffman receives. Mosher sets for Hollaback. So Lutrick to Kern. To Biedenbender, just passes it across. Gato to Mosher, sets for Hollaback. Blocked at the line, but it's blocked out of bounds. Cougars pick up another point. I mean, that has been one of their more consistent strategies in this set. Powered off the Warriors, force a bad angle, force them to block it out of bounds. Godzowski gets that across. Biedenbender sets over to Pickler. Cardenas can't receive cleanly. That point's going to go back to WLC. These two squads trading points once again. Hoyser serving from a 3-point deficit. He'll toss it up, get it across. Cardenas receives. Mosher sets for Hoffman. Pickler. Biedenbender. Kern. Mosher keeps it up. Gato to Hoffman. Tries to find the gap. Now Biedenbender. He'll try and spike it himself. Gato sets for Hollaback. And Tyler Hollaback goes for too much of an angle. Two-point deficit now for the Warriors. Heuser gets up there, sends that across, and out of bounds. Again, these two teams trading squad, trading points. 3-point lead for the Cougars. Hollebeck serves that across, received by Heuser. Mosher dunks that off of Beaton Pender's head, forces him into the net. Eli Mosher having a revenge tour on the attacking end of the ball this set. Hollebeck sends that across. Biedenbender passes to Kern, and Kern can't even get it over the net. The Cougars going on a 3-0 run when they need it. They lead 16-11. Hollebeck gets it across. Biedenbender, he's going to set that up for Wempner. And Wempner is just able to get that across the net. Warriors able to break the run. And they're back within 4. Drew Wempner back to serve. Drew Wempner has had a good night at the service line so far. Cardenas receives. Mosher sets for Ford! And he dunks that off of Kern's head and out of bounds. That running attack from Alexander Ford has been a play the Cougars have gone to time and time again today, and the Warriors still struggling to find a consistent way to stop it. Hoffman gets it across. Biedenbender sets for Ward, and Ward's able to spit the block. And you go back to set number 1, Josh Ward was the only player on WLC able to consistently produce points on offense, and you got to wonder if Wisconsin Lutheran, once they have started struggling again in this set, they're going to look to go to Ward more. Mosher, a dump off, another one, Eli Mosher. Again, continuing that offensive push in set number 3. Alexander Ford back to serve with a 5-point lead behind him. Tipped off the net. Biedenbender saves it. Kern passing over to Heuser from the back line. Hoffman's there. Mosher sets for Godzowski. Blocked at the net. Biedenbender sets for Kern. And that's tipped. Hoffman can't line it up. And Wisconsin Lutheran, some great defense with that rally to stay in it and force a mistake out of the Cougs. Kern back to serve. Mosher sets the Hollebeck! Flying in from the back line! The Warriors not expecting that kind of heat from that spot on the court. And Hollebeck straight into the block, down into the net. Mosher back to serve. He'll toss that up and send it into the net. Mosher frustrated with himself, not able to get a run going for the Cougs. And now back to a 4-point deficit for WLC. 19 to 15 is the score. Samuel Dudor back into the game to serve. He'll get that across. Hollebeck receives. Mosher sets up for Stella. Stella, floater, Pickler. Wempner. Now Mosher sets for Hollebeck. Blocked at the line. Gato's there. Mosher setting for Stella. Blocked! This time there's no one there. Wisconsin Lutheran gets their front line going again, and they're back within 3 points. Greg Manos going to preemptively call a timeout. Doesn't want to see WLC get any closer in this set. And again, you go to those splits. Wisconsin Lutheran, they've not been nearly as bad in set number 3 as they were in set number 1, hitting at a 174 percentage. Only got 3 errors. You go over to the Cougars, 3 errors to their name as well. 345 hitting percentage. That's where your difference is right now. The Cougars have been more consistent on offense than WLC. But Wisconsin Lutheran, they've been coming up big at that front line. 2.5 blocks in this set alone against CUC, and they're coming up big now. They need to go on one more run to try and claw back up even with Concordia Chicago in this set. If the Cougars can keep it in that rut of trading points back and forth between the two times, that's great news for Concordia Chicago. That's where they want to be. If you have a lead like this, you want to be there or better. You don't want to be in a situation like this. The Warriors 2 consecutive points, looking to continue to push that momentum. Greg Manos, his team usually does pretty well coming out of timeouts. We'll see how they do coming out of this one. 19-16, Concordia Chicago leads. Wisconsin Lutheran has possession. Samuel Dudor, a service specialist, is back to serve once again. Dudor gets it across. Hoffman can't receive cleanly. That's not what you want out of the timeout. The Warriors now within 2. As Dudor drops back to serve once again. Dudor gets that across. Hollebeck's there. Mosher sets for Stella. And Stella forces some miscommunication on the back line. Biedenbender deflects it as he tries to avoid Dudor. And the Cougars take possession back. They crack 20. It's 20-17 Concordia Chicago as Michael Cardenas comes back into the match to serve. Cardenas tosses it up, gets it across. Biedenbender sets up Pickler. And the Warriors will take that right back. Brady Pickler, another slam down, and he cracks into double digits. 10 kills on the night. Pickler himself back to serve now. He'll toss that up, and he'll get that across. Gato receives. Mosher sets for Hoffman. Sends it out of bounds on the far sideline, and the Warriors are within 1. Wisconsin Lutheran has slowly climbed back into this one. Pickler. Gato receives it back over the net. Both of these teams playing sloppily on this play. Now Hollebeck's there, gets a deflection. Saved by Pickler. Cardenas keeps it up. Mosher sets over to Hollebeck again. Floater. Now Kern. Up to Heuser. Pushes it over. Mosher sets for Hollebeck again. Blocked at the line. Mosher going to set up for Hoffman. And they're going to tag the Warriors for going into the net. Wisconsin Lutheran just makes a mistake in what was a sloppy back-and-forth set between these two squads. Sloppy in the way that it wasn't pretty, but not sloppy in the way that both of these teams were playing the defense that they needed to. Gudzowski gets it across. It's received straight out of bounds. How about that for a serve from Leon Gudzowski? Put it on the line, forced it out of bounds. And Wisconsin Lutheran forced to call a timeout. They trail by 3, only 3 points to go. And we'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back on the Cougar Sports Network for the final 3 points of set number 3. Welcome back to River Forest. It scores 22-19. Cougars lead by 3. They have possession. We're coming out of a WLC timeout. Wisconsin Lutheran, they have stayed. They have fought within touching distance. They've gotten to a 1-point gap. They had this game at 20-19 for a moment, but the Cougars able to steal 2 consecutive points right back. They lead by 3, and they're 3 points away from winning the set. Leon Gudzowski back to serve again. He'll toss it up. He'll send it across. Biedenbender sends it over to Wempner. Mosher receives. Cardenas has to set over to Hollaback. Hollaback gets the deflection. Biedenbender setting to Pickler from the back line. Mosher receives. Gudzowski, long pass up to Hollaback, into the net. Hollaback misjudges it. And WLC forces the Cougars onto their back foot. They get it back within 2. It's 20-22. That's the play you want out of the timeout. WLC able to stay clean, able to force the Cougars into a tough spot. Boiser will toss it up and send it across. Mosher receives. Now Hollaback can't get it down. Mosher to Ford! Slams it down! The Cougars bench all riled up. They're within 2. Hollaback can't get it done. Ford can. He's up to 10 on the night. Salutric to Kern. This is going to be an awkward play. Pickler saves it. Hollaback to Mosher. Sets up Ford. Blocked at the line. Hollaback keeps it up. Now Hollaback over to Hoffman. Saved by Pickler. Now Wemler's there. Hollaback from the back line. Kept up by Kern. Now sent over to Biedenbender. Blocked at the line. This Warriors team struggling to get it over the net. Now Kern over to Gato. Mosher sets up for Hoffman. Hoffman through, splits the block. Tapped over by Biedenbender. Mosher sets for Hoffman again. This time back line. Saved by Heuser. Biedenbender floats it over. Cardenas is there. Mosher sets forward. Tapper. Kern. Biedenbender. Back to Pickler. Way too much sauce on that one. And the Cougars don't touch it. They pick up the point. They take possession back. And they are at set point. They lead by 4, 24-20. How about that for another long set? These two teams have been going at it tonight. Boiser receives. Miscommunication. And an anticlimactic end to the set, but the Cougars love it. They drop a boom of their own to end set number 3. They win it 25-20 over WLC, and they head into set number 4 with the advantage, 2-1, one set away from taking the win over Wisconsin Lutheran. They'll take a break down on the court. They'll switch sides. We'll take a break up here at the Cougar Sports Network as well, and we will be right back in just a couple minutes. Welcome back to Concordia Chicago. We're here for set 4 of tonight's matchup between the Concordia Chicago Cougars and the Wisconsin Lutheran Warriors. Charlie T might be lounging out for a nap on the far side of the court by the student section, but these two squads headed out on the court. They're not ready to get down for a nap. Concordia Chicago leads 2-1, looking to finish off a second consecutive win here in set number 4. Wisconsin Lutheran, they're looking to get back into this one, and they're also looking to stay in the win column. Both of these teams' most recent win coming against St. Norbert's. Cougars will start off with possession to start the set. Eli Mosher will drop back to serve. And some of those highlighted players so far tonight: Tyler Hollebeck, 16 kills. Alexander Ford, 10 kills on a .588 hitting percentage. And Brady Pickler with 10 to his own name. Make it 11 for Pickler! Right off the head of Gato again. And the Warriors 1-point lead to start off set number 4. Both of these sets so far, the team that has struck first has been the team to win the set. Warriors hoping to keep that trend going in set number 4. Pickler gets it across. Hollebeck receives. Mosher sets up for Stella. Stella blocked the line. Mosher going to set it up for Hollebeck. Blocked at the line. Hollebeck keeps it up. Mosher setting for Hollebeck again. This time it's power. Biedenbender over to Pickler, just pushes it over. Stella to Mosher to Gudzowski, saved by Kern. Biedenbender sets that up at the line, straight into the line by Dreyer. Ray Dreyer into the game for the first time tonight, and his first attempt goes into the net. Concordia Chicago evens it back up at 1-1. Michael Cardenas dropping back to serve. Cardenas tosses that up and sends it across. Biedenbender to Dreyer. Gato's there. Now Mosher setting up Hollebeck. And that is just out of bounds on the near sideline. Hollebeck gets too much curve on it, and the Warriors get back in front 2-1. Dreyer back to serve for the first time tonight. He'll power that across. Mosher is going to set this up for Hoffman. Block at the line. Mosher keeps it up. Hoffman pushes it to the back line. Biedenbender sets up Wempner. Mosher keeps it up. Gato passing to Hollebeck. Floater. Two-hand slam from Wempner. Not able to get it down. Hollebeck tipped out of bounds. Great defense from Concordia Chicago to keep that set alive. And they draw it back even at 2-2. Tyler Hollebeck, his 17th kill of the night, as Leon Gudzowski drops back to serve. Gudzowski tosses that up, sends it across, received by Dreyer. Biedenbender setting to Kern. Great shot from Noah Kern. Saw the gap on the far line and just sent a little floater over there to drop it into the space. No one from Concordia Chicago able to get there in time. Now Wempner to serve off the net. Mosher sets the forward again. A laser to the back line. No one there. Alexander Ford, his 11th of the night. Stays hot. The freshman having himself a match as Hollebeck drops back to serve. Biedenbender going to set that up for Kern. Another one for Kern. These two squads stay trading points. It's now 4-3 Wisconsin Lutheran. Back to serve is Jay Tomavongsa. Mosher sets up Ford. And that's going to drop down out of bounds. Alexander Ford puts some missile hot sauce on that one. Salutric can't reel it in cleanly, and it goes off of Salutric all the way out of bounds on the opposite side of the net. 4-4 now. These two teams still trading points. Hoffman back to serve. Gets it across. Salutric receives. Tomavongsa sets that up for Kern. Long shot out of bounds. First time tonight these two teams aren't trading points. And the Cougars get in front for the first time this set, 5-4. Hoffman, another chance to serve. Gets it over the net. Salutric, Tomavongsa sets up Kern. Hollabeck keeps it up. Mosher to Stella. Now Tomavongsa sets up Ward. Mosher to Gato. Gato sets up Hollabeck. There's some sauce! And that is deflected to the back corner of the gym. Another one for Tyler Hollabeck. The Warriors stay alive. The Cougars stay alive and then finish it off. Again, Hoffman. Too much on top of it. That serves into the net. And it's back to a 1-point game. Noah Kern dropping back to serve. Kern sends that across. Hoffman receives. Mosher sets up Stella. That's deflected. Tomavongsa sets up Pickler. Blocked at the line, but it's blocked out of bounds. Too much angle on it from the Cougar blockers, and we're back even at 6. Kern, another chance to serve. Gets it over. Gato receives. Mosher sets up Ford. Blocked at the line. Hollabeck to Mosher. Sets up Ford. A floater! And how about that for some volleyball IQ from Alexander Ford? And that's how you get the team going. Ford saw a gap on the near side, exactly how Noah Kern killed the Cougars earlier, and just calls for the ball, calls for him to get it because he knows what he's going to do. He gets it, he floats it in, and now he drops a laser, skimming the net. That's pushed over by Kern, and Hoffman can't get out of the way of Ford. Warriors catch a break. Cougars miscommunicate on defense. It's now back to 7-7. Now to number 7, Samuel Dudor, back to serve. Dudor sends that across. Hollabeck receives. Mosher sets up Stella. Tries to go to the near corner, and he does! Coast to coast for the sophomore. J.R. Stella puts the Cougars back in front. Mosher now back to serve for Concordia. He'll get that over. High pass to Tomavongsa. Sets up Dreyer. Blocked at the net. Mosher to Hollabeck. Blocked at the net. Mosher to Godzowski. Sets up Hollabeck. That's deflected out of bounds. Wempner couldn't avoid it. Hollabeck saw the high block, and he decided to just go a bit higher, get it off the fingertips. And the Cougars back up by 2. Mosher still serving. Poor reception from Salutric. Mosher is going to set up Hoffman from the back row. And that's going to be called an error on the Cougars. Again, the Warriors, they'll try to take advantage of that. That brings them back within 1, 9-8. Pickler, that's a laser, and that's miscommunication again between Hoffman and Hollabeck. Both of them trying to go for that reception. Hollabeck unable to get out of the way of Hoffman. We're back even at 9. Pickler will stay with the serve. He'll toss that up and send it straight into the net. A rough break for Brady. Pickler gets his team back even and then loses that draw straight away. The Cougars crack double digits. It's 10-9 as Michael Cardenas drops back to serve. Cardenas tosses that up, gets it over. Salutric to Biedenbender, over to Pickler. And Pickler gets the control on it to go around the block. And we're back even at 10. Set 4 is staying close between these two squads. Wisconsin Lutheran pushing Concordia for the last 5 points. Ray Dreyer back to serve. Gets it across off Cardenas' chest. Now Hoffman straight into the block. That block's out of bounds. Michael Cardenas going to start off that play with a shot to the chest. And the Cougars back in front by 1. It's 11-10. Gudzowski tosses that up, sends it across. Biedenbender sets up Kern. Hollowbeck keeps it up. Mosher diving into the bench. Gudzowski can't get it over the net. Back even at 11-11. High effort can't save the Cougars there. I mean, this is just a back and forth set. Both these teams playing well. Wempner deflected off the net. Mosher's there. Sets up Ford! And that's a mag! Ford splits the legs of Drew Wempner. That's how you get him done. Alexander Ford, his 14th kill of the night. Hollowbeck serves. Biedenbender sets up Ward. Mosher sets up Hoffman. Blocked out of bounds again. The Cougars break that stretch of back-to-back points. They have a 2-point lead. It's 13-11. Kern tries to get up there, but Eli Mosher gets up there too for a block. Kern, with that running play, didn't have the control, didn't have the ability to try and work that around the block. Mosher just slammed it down the other side of the net. 3-point lead for Concordia, largest of the set. Dreyer to Kern. Kern tips it off the block and out of bounds. Warriors take that point back. They're back within 2, 14-12. Looks like it'll be Tamavangsa dropping back to serve. Tamavangsa tosses that up, sends it across. Hoffman to Gato. Gato passing up to Hoffman. Tries to go back line and just too much on it. Ray Dreyer sends some love over to his bench for that shout out, calling out the long ball. And Wisconsin Lutheran back within 1. Tamavangsa gets it across. Hoffman to Mosher, sets up Ford. A floater! Alexander Ford, the same run-up as he's done for his power shots, but just floats that win into the gap. No one able to get there from Wisconsin Lutheran. And the Cougars back up to a 2-point lead. 15-13, Hoffman's going to send that across. Tamavangsa sets up Pickler, and that's out the back line. Brady Pickler just a bit much on it, maybe 2 or 3 inches. But it's enough that it's a clear call out of bounds, and Marcin Hoffman will serve with a 3-point lead. Hoffman tosses it up, gets it over the net. Tamavangsa's going to set that up to Kern. And that's slammed down again by the Cougars blocker. Ford stomps the foot, and he's stomping his foot to a 4-point lead. Timeout, Wisconsin Lutheran, Mike Ensley. He's finally going to try and get his team back together, get them back into this one. The Cougars slowly pulling away here in set number 4. They'll take a short break down on the court. We'll take a short break up here at the Cougar Sports Network. We'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back to River Forest here in Geisman Gymnasium. Concordia, Chicago, 8 points away from taking set number 4 and picking up a second consecutive win. They lead 17-13 over Wisconsin Lutheran. They're on a 3-0 run as Marcin Hoffman sends that across. Tomavongsa sets to Ward. Mosher's there. Gato sets over to Hollabeck. Tomavongsa receives. Pickler passes over to Kern. Kern over the block. Hollabeck to Mosher to Stella. Power down to the back line. The JR Stella's having none of it, and the Cougars are up by 5. Hoffman back to serve again. He's leading a 4-0 run, and that will end. Not enough behind it, and that heads into the net. So the Warriors catch a much-needed break. And trailing by 4, their largest deficit of the set. They're going to look to get on a little bit of a run here to get back into this one. Kern off the net. Mosher sets up Ford. Another one for the freshman. Alexander Ford's 16th kill of the night. Cougars up to 19. They lead by 5. Ford to serve. Dreyer receives. Tomavongsa sets for Pickler. Hoffman to Stella. Cougars defense keeping them in this one again. Kern pass it up to Dreyer. Blocked the line. Salutric to Pickler trying to stay alive. Now Mosher to Gudzovsky. The Warriors scrambling around, trying to create a play. Dreyer can't drop that one down. Mosher, a dump off! The Cougars stay alive. The Cougars pick it up. And this squad is having fun. They lead by 6. It's 20-14. Ford back to serve, 6-point lead. Salutric receives, Tomavongsa sets for Pickler, and Pickler bringing it back when it's needed. Coast to coast, right on the line. Perfect shot from Brady Pickler. And Drew Wempner coming back into the game, so the Warriors getting that boost of height on the front line as well. Dudor back to serve. Off the net, Hoffman to Mosher to Gudzovsky. Tries to drop that over. Kern passing that up to Pickler. Can't drop it down. Kern just has to pass it across. Now Mosher setting up Hollabeck from the back row. Kern keeps it up. Great dig. Now Dreyer tries to push it over. Slam dunk from JR Stella. Cougars back up by 6, 21-15. The front line stays strong, and the Warriors backs up against the wall. Mike Ensley calls his last time out. Wisconsin Lutheran. They're trying to find a way to stay in this match, but the Cougars are pushing. The Warriors, they lead by 6, and I mean, again, this offense from the Cougars tonight has been remarkable. They're hitting at 375 in this current set, 293 on the night. Tyler Hollabeck, his hitting percentages drop. It's down to a 333. Still 19 kills, but Alexander Ford, 667 hitting percentage, 16 kills on 24 attempts, no errors for the freshman, playing what just might be the game of his career so far, and what has been a young career for the freshman. I mean, Marcin Hoffman as well, getting up to 9 kills on a 192 hitting percentage. The Cougars offense is playing well. The Warriors, they're not playing as badly as we've seen them play. They're not playing as badly as we've seen other teams. I've seen the Cougars play at points this season, but you can't hit at a 146 game percentage or 111 set percentage and expect to be able to keep up with a team that's playing as well as the Cougars are tonight. This Cougars attacking has been on point. Their defense has been absolutely stellar tonight. 59 digs on the night for Concordia Chicago. Like we mentioned, out of their mind so far. Mosher to serve, gets it across to Lutrick, to Tomavongsa, sets up Dreyer, and Ray Dreyer picks up his first kill of the night. Able to split the block, find the gap, and get it down. And the Warriors rest what they wanted out of the timeout. A quick point, they're back within 5 at 16-21. As Brady Pickle drops back to serve. Pickler's got to go on a run here. Mosher's going to set up Gudzovsky. Pickler, he's not going to go on a run. He receives it out of bounds. The Cougars now within 3. It's 22-16. Just too many mistakes from the Warriors. Michael Cardenas serves that across. Lutrick receives. Pickler sends that up to Dreyer. It's too far. Biedenbender to Dreyer. Another one for Ray Dreyer. Maybe, because Michael Cardenas is going to say that Hollebeck saves it in the bench. Biedenbender to Wempner. Wempner again, blocked again. Mosher to Gato. He's going to set up Hollebeck. That's 20 on the night. Tyler Hollebeck puts the Cougars within 2. Now Michael Cardenas will drop back to serve, only 2 points away from taking this game. Cardenas gets it across. Lutrick receives, up to Biedenbender. Sets for Pickler. But the Warriors aren't done yet. Pickler is fired up as he forces a tough shot on Mosher. Mosher just can't find out how to bring that in. 6-point deficit, 23-17. Dreyer back to serve. And he's going to send it out of bounds. Concordia's bench breaks out the good boy. And Ray Dreyer forces a bad serve. The Cougars 1 point away from taking the match. Gudzovsky will serve it up. Dreyer receives it straight across. Cardenas. Mosher. Hoffman. Ball game! Cougars win 25-17 in set 4. 3-1 on the night. And it's back-to-back dubs for the Cougs. Concordia Chicago plays out of their minds against Wisconsin Lutheran, and they pick up a much-needed win as they fight to stay in that playoff fight in the back half of the season. (25-17) is the final score. The Cougars win by 8 or more points in 2 of those sets. Set 3 won by 25-20. One set, they lose 25-19. But the Cougars having one of the best games of their season tonight at home against Wisconsin Lutheran. You have 2 of their best games of the season back to back. St. Norbert's into Wisconsin Lutheran. Exactly what the Cougars wanted. I mean, you look at some of those highlights from those stat sheets, numbers that are great to see. Tyler Hollebeck, one of his best games of the season, 20 kills, 349 hitting percentage for Concordia Chicago. Alexander Ford, he's second amongst all players tonight with 16 kills, sets a new career high for the freshman just after he set his old career high at 14 kills against St. Norbert's this past Saturday. He had a .667 hitting percentage, 16 kills on 24 attempts, 61 digs on the night from Concordia Chicago. Eli Mosher coming off of a game where he set his career high in assists against St. Norbert's with 57, 42 assists tonight. Look over at Wisconsin Lutheran. Brady Pickler struggled in set number 1, got it together for the rest of the game, but it wasn't enough. 15 kills for the freshman out of Menomonee Falls, Wisconsin. He had a great game himself, but just wasn't enough. The Warriors not playing clean enough, but that'll do it. The Cougars back-to-back wins. St. Norbert's into Wisconsin Lutheran. Concordia Chicago will head on from here to take on Greenville for Senior Day this Saturday at home at 3 o'clock. You'll be able to catch that action here on the Cougar Sports Network. And before we head to our post-game interview with the coaches of this volleyball team. Quick thank you to everyone who made tonight's game possible. Sasha Gonzalez on the scoreboard, Courtney Schneider, our libero, Corey Welch working as our spotter, Jalen Franklin on camera, Ashley Schroll and Alan Mateo, our producers tonight, Emily Lucero on camera, Abby Kulig on stats. Our sports information director is Taylor McLeod. I'm Jonathan Shear. Thank you for joining us, and make sure to stick with us because we're about to head to a post-game interview with the victorious Concordia Chicago men's volleyball team. That's coming up in just a minute. What's up, Cougar Nation? I'm Jonathan Shear with the Cougar Sports Network here with a victorious Coach Greg Manos of this men's volleyball team. Coach Manos, 3-1 win over Wisconsin Lutheran tonight, a dominant win for your squad, playing what might be the best game of the conference season for you guys. You now have back-to-back wins coming off a win over St. Norbert, so your team playing some of their best volleyball of the season right now, picking up important wins when they need to right in the middle of conference season. So let's get into it. A really big win for your team tonight, and one of the biggest stats to look at from that is the offense and that hitting percentage. Your team played incredibly clean on offense, a .303 hitting percentage tonight, the highest you've had this conference season, coming off of a game that against St. Norbert's that used to be your highest hitting percentage this season. Your team has been playing a lot cleaner on offense, and that's probably been a focus, but how happy are you with seeing how that's come along? What have been some of the biggest factors in that improving?
Yeah, it's neat to see this offense, this team mature, because we have a lot of new, we have a lot of young, and they're playing a lot. So we had a lot of movement in terms of their development, right? We're attacking teams in different ways, and they're being very methodical with their approach to the game. So if you're talking about that offensive efficiency, one, they're scoring in good ways. Our serve receive is allowing us to do different things based on our matchup, and then our hitters are terminating. Like, they're getting after it, they're being aggressive, and they're doing it in all the right ways. And on top of that, what they're doing that's really just the steady, sneaky part is that when it's not convenient, they're making the better decision. Earlier in the year, I think that was the challenge for us, is making the right decision in those tough moments when it's not ideal. But the reality is that, one, they're giving yourself those open looks and they're ripping them. So when teams are giving us easy opportunities, they're taking advantage of it. And then when they're challenging us in different ways, we've adapted. And to see that maturity and that growth, it's allowed our offense to flourish, and it's really encouraging to see at this point in the conference season especially.
Absolutely. You mentioned in there, you have a young team. You also mentioned how lethal your hitters have been so far. One of the biggest performances out of tonight goes kind of to your different things. Your oldest player on the team this season, Tyler Hollebeck, led all players with 20 kills. And then one of your younger players, your freshman, Alexander Ford, set a new career high with 16 kills. And obviously, Hollebeck's been a stalwart on your team all season long, but Ford, he's really been coming on, setting back-to-back career highs against St. Norbert's and now against Wisconsin Lutheran. How has it been specifically to see him come along, see the skills that he brings to this team start to play such a big impact?
The reality is, right, when one piece is doing really well, it complements everyone else. So we've seen that teams have approached us defensively in different ways, and we know Hollebeck's been a hammer, right? It's been a key, it's been steady, and tonight he shined in every way. But the reality is when you have a guy who can be that 1-2 punch, and then everyone else, is supporting as well, right, that really allowed us to hit a high clip and efficient all the way through, because those two were terminal scorers all the way. But as soon as we got the other guys the ball, too, they did the right thing, they made the right decision, and they terminated. So it's really neat to see that offense evolve where, yes, we've got that hammer from Hollebeck. Alex has stepped up big time, but we know, too, the offense is flowing in a really positive way because of their ability to score in different ways and move across the net, too.
And what was probably the toughest set for your offense tonight was set number 2. That was a set Wisconsin also played their best volleyball in tonight. And when that was a set, your team was on the back foot for most of the day. You had some really rough moments during that set. Kind of felt like the momentum was shifting over to the other side of the court. And then you brought it right back in set number 3, which is something that is very encouraging to see from a very young team, like you mentioned. What was how was you tried to have that aspect of the game mature throughout the season, be in the mentality to bounce back from tough sets, and how did that really play out tonight?
This team has established their identity, and I think that's always a challenge when you talk about who you are, how you want to play, and how you want to go about your business. And the reality is that Wisconsin Lutheran played really well in that second set. They were serving lights out. They challenged our passers in different ways, and because of it, we started to get out of rhythm. But the message was just simple. It was, fellas, we're a good team. I need us to stay the course. And they really stepped up big time. Wisconsin Lutheran came back in a positive way after that set, but the reality is we made those quick hitters, and they couldn't stop it, you know?
Absolutely, and you head on from here. You have your last non-conference game of the season against Greenfield for senior day, and then it's the very end of conference season. And I mean, this is it's a very top-heavy NAC, but a very tight NAC as well.
Yes,
Once you get to that 5 seed and down, a lot of teams between 2 and 4 wins. Your team's now at 3. You're right on that cusp of being in those top 8 seeds. What do you think your team really has to do, really has to focus on to make sure you can slide into those playoffs and secure a spot in the back end of the season?
Yeah, consistency's been the biggest part of it. And the reality is that a lot of these teams are going to win and lose against each other in that middle just because it's so busy and so deep. A lot of these teams have new players that are freshmen, young, or talented. And the reality is the team that's consistently good is going to outbeat the team that's inconsistently great. So we want to make sure we're consistently good. That's our message here. If we stay the course and we make sure we're road warriors for a couple of our travel destinations, we have every bit of control right now. So just understand it's up to us to take that fate and make it our own.
Absolutely. And Coach Manos, great win tonight, and good luck as you head into the rest of your conference season. That'll do it on the Cougar Sports Network tonight. Like we mentioned, the Cougars volleyball team back in action this Saturday right at home at 3 p.m. taking on Greenville University for senior day. You'll be able to catch any action you've missed and that game itself right here on the Cougar Sports Network. And thank you for joining us, and make sure to join us next time. As always, roll Cougs.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's Concordia University Chicago Cougars Athletics broadcast. We hope to see you on campus very soon. If you would like to learn more about what Concordia Chicago has to offer, go to cuchicago.edu.